This is Tea with Botha.
Welcome to another episode of Tea with Botha. This is unconventional. These are uncharted waters. We talk about things that ordinarily our society doesn't talk about or focus on. And we are grateful and I must say blessed that this afternoon we have a good friend, a man who does a wonderful work, and he will talk more about who he is and what work he does, the organization he comes from. And I must say once again that these are uncharted waters that we're talking about and talking to. And please help me to welcome Babu Kunene as Ngobansi, just to share with us who is Babu Kunene, all of these, Kimang, and why does he do the work that he does?
Yeah, thank you, Baba. It's a pleasure being here. I am Zibuse Kunene, born and bred Soweto at the Parakwanath Hospital. And then I grew up in Soweto. In 2002, I moved to Pretoria.
Oh, Soweto Kogai.
Soweto Alienated.
Oh.
Yeah. So I started in Mfulo North and then went to Alienated, Lapo, where I was staying with my mom. And then thereafter, when I got a job, I then relocated to Pretoria. Back then, Pretoria was beautiful and clean. And that was what attracted me to Pretoria. It was beautiful. Yeah. And then I got to stay Arcadia and then moved to Sunnyside and then eventually landed up in Pretoria East where I'm at. I am married to Uhlengiwe, my beautiful wife, and I have 2 children, a daughter and a son. So the daughter and the son are 10 years apart. And they're born in the same month, 3 days apart.
Which month? Interesting.
June.
So
my daughter was born on June 16th, and then my son is born on June 13th.
Interesting. June 16th, the name?
Her name is Owetu.
Owetu.
Yes.
Interesting.
And then the son is Zibuse.
Or the same as dad?
No. Mina Zibuse.
Zibuse?
Yeah. And then he's Zibuse. Blessings.
Blessings.
Yes.
So you born and bred in Soweto, Naledi,
yes.
Moved on and ended up in Pretoria.
Yes.
Yeah, and share with us, what's that in the picture?
Dads in the Picture is an organization founded in 2012. And it was an organization founded by the main founder is Meshach Gekana. Now, when he looked around his life, how he grew up, he saw that he was raised by an army of women. But his father was not there in the picture. And there was no male to be there to play that positive male role model. So around the friends that he had, he said, guys, let us do something about this. This is what I've seen. And then the like-minded fathers who were there then gathered to conceptualize this organization and what it would stand for. And initially, the organization had a logo where it was a father holding a son. But then the idea was it's not necessarily fathers for sons, but it was a dad being in the picture.
For both.
Exactly. Yeah. So then a girl child was added. So when you look at our logo, you will see the father is holding the hands
both
of a boy and a girl child. And that's what we resemble. The boy and the girl child will represent their voices. Even though the organizations have dads in the picture, it's not necessarily about the dad.
It's not about them.
It's not about the dad. It's about the child. That for as long as the child gets to reflect on their life and look through their past, they can see that dad has always been in the picture.
Interesting.
Hence the name Dad in the Picture.
That in the picture.
Right.
But the picture part of it, Babu Kunene, it's not your physical pictorial. It's am I right?
Yes.
Related to what?
It's both.
It's both.
So a lot of the times you will see, you take pictures here and there. You will always see mothers and children. But you don't see both mother and father as well as the child.
And that distorts the picture about our presence in the lives of
Exactly.
our children. Why do you think that's the case?
Exactly. So all of that has been intentional, right? But before we even get there, I just want to finish the story about dads in the picture. So what we then do is, while advocating for children, we do the advocating to the dad. So we're saying, instead of being not there or maybe being present but absent in your presence, then be there, be present, and be active, and be a positive male role model for your child. Because your child derives their identity from both parents. When you get to know who your mother is and her history and heritage, as well as you look at your father and who he is, as well as his heritage, you then can see traces of who you are as a child. And therefore, we don't necessarily say, while we're advocating for dad to be there, we're going to bash the mother. We believe that a child needs both parents.
A child needs both parents.
Both parents. And it's important that both parents are there. So that's the best form of parenting. Otherwise, both parents can parent in their separate places, wherever they are, but ensure that the best interests of the child are taken care of.
Interesting. And maybe we will talk more about it.
Yes.
Interesting. I'll tell you why I'm saying interest, because today we're talking about parental alienation.
Yes.
But I'm just saying that what excites me is that how you infuse this with, I don't know whether it's just deliberate or purposeful, the work that dads in the picture does. So I'm just saying that, and I want to maybe zone in and focus. What are your programs? When you talk about dads in the picture, the work that you do?
Yeah.
In practical terms.
So let me make an example. Let's say you become a grandfather today. Would you be?
Which I am, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, with lots of. It's a very apt. I have lots and lots of them.
Even though you can't tell.
Yeah.
Well, you still look young.
Oh, that's. You should have been a great psychologist, man. You're making people feel good. Well, in the next date of birth, I'll be 64. So I've got as we speak now, and the kids are still growing. I have in between the kids about 7, 8 grandchildren.
That's good.
But then go on.
Now the point was, most men do not know how to change a nappy. A simple thing. Others are even afraid to hold a newborn child. So what we then do through the programs we do is we encourage you as a dad to be involved from the moment you learn that you're both pregnant, not just the woman or your wife, but the moment that you both realize that you're pregnant. That's the time where you're pregnant, are getting
both of
yes. Because research has proven that men also go through emotional, psychological, and physiological changes when their partner are experiencing pregnancy. So I don't know if you've seen when a guy has learned that his partner is pregnant, there's compassionate pregnancy. Where sometimes he will vomit. Instead of the woman vomiting, he vomits. And others they get to gain weight.
And these are the men.
These are the men during the pregnancy. And then we tend to ignore those things. But it's a sign that things are changing. So as a man, you become more sensitive when you're pregnant, especially for the first time, right? So that allows you to be able to connect, to be more sensitive to your child and to the pregnant mother, and preparing you for fatherhood, especially biological fatherhood. And I'm making that distinction intentionally, because there is chosen by fatherhood, or where I do not have children of my own, but I have a heart of a father, and I can nurture children, and I can love children, and I can raise them, but I don't have children of my own. And then I can become a biological father, where I have given birth to children. I've contributed a seed that gave birth to a person.
Mm.
And then from there, we then see that coming through.
Mm.
Right. So that's what we do. We encourage fathers to be there, to be present. In one of our pictures, if you can go to our website, there's a picture of a dad. I think he had a 6 or 8 month old that he brought to camp with him, and he was feeding him. And through the camps, we are encouraging dads, because as men, we learn through sight. And we also learn by seeing other dads do.
I was privileged. When you talk about your camps, I was privileged to be one of your, a year ago.
Yes.
It was a massive, huge camp you had somewhere out in Pretoria here.
Yes.
I was privileged to be, to witness what you talk about. There was a father who had come in there, stayed for all of the, was it from Friday
until
stayed
Sunday.
And was feeding. And I interacted with a lot of fathers who were real present.
Yes.
Who were not what one would call your ATM fathers.
Yes.
Because our society also, I don't know if you would agree, tends to be too harsh on men, on fathers, and not acknowledging and acknowledging the pivotal role that fathers play in the lives of their children. Would you agree?
Definitely. We don't give men enough credit, considering the fact that men are not naturally nurturers. Mothers are nurturers. Whereas that's why women even have breasts, because they nurture, they feed. So when a man tends to take on the role of a nurturer, then he's moving away from his comfort zone. And then if you look at our history, where men have been systematically, specifically fathers, have been systematically removed from the family. Right? And when they were removed from the family was left without a father. The boy child did not have anyone to look up to. So he didn't know how to model fatherhood. He didn't have anyone.
Template.
He didn't have anyone to learn from. And so where did you expect him to learn fatherhood? And that cycle perpetuated. Right. Later on, I want to touch on even the psychological as well as the biological effects of removing a parent and what it takes to change that. So we've got the camps as dads in the picture where we then say, come Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's you, daddy, and your children. And then you get to see how to engage with your children, activities that we do with children, as well as see how other dads who've been down that road can share the tips through action. As dads, we prepare the meals. We prepare the meals together also with them, and we do activities together. You see dads learning how to actually take care of a child in the presence of other dads. And what that does is it doesn't make him feel emasculated. It makes him feel manly, that he's owning up to his responsibility. And what we discourage is for a dad to say, I'm assisting my wife in raising my children, or I'm babysitting my children.
They are your children.
They are your children.
Yeah. So why would you?
So you can't be assisting.
You can't,
Even in the home, you cannot be assisting. You are doing your responsibility.
So this is the language or how society has boxed us. And would you agree?
Yes.
So you're saying you are there to change even the thinking, the language.
Exactly.
Where dads walk with there and do these things that ordinarily we thought that they belong only to the mothers. Would you agree?
True. True. There are so many things that we thought belonged to mothers, that it's mothers who should be doing that. And even society has shunned upon men who have taken on domestic responsibilities. There was I'll still say tweet, because we used to tweet on X.
Not X now, yeah. X now.
So a man was yeah. And he was in the kitchen cooking.
Yeah.
And somebody took a picture of that. And then they were saying, Ujisitswe, or a good father.
Yeah.
And then my comment was, it's a positive present father. Because he's showing that this is my child, this is what I'm doing, and I'm taking care of my responsibilities. Right? So that's the narrative that we need to normalize when men are stepping up and taking responsibility for the raising.
If we have to say Ujisito, it's a positive sijiso.
Mbuyiselo Ngema once says in one of his songs, ukuthi letha lesidliso, faka bese uyangidlisa.
Oh, usho njalo.
Yeah.
Okay. Uthi ungidlise
Ungidlise mangabe
ngidlisiwe. Yeah.
Gcwalisa futhi asiqhubeke sephambili. I might as well because I'm doing what I want to do. I'm doing what I love doing.
Interesting.
And it's for my children. And what we've also seen, there are, if I can remember, there are 2 dads who come to mind who are raising children by themselves without the mother being present. And those dads, we're not saying give them medals, but we're saying there are dads who are doing good. And it is not easy for anyone to be raising a child by themselves. But when a dad has to do what he's not created to do, what his biology does not tell him to do, then you have to recognize that and acknowledge it. One dad, and you have to balance the emotional development of your children.
Yeah.
In that, as a child, we need to learn from both sides. From the father, the harshness, the toughness, the taking risks, and taking initiatives. If you've seen Tina Baba would take a child, throw them up in the air, and they go all scared and something, and then they come back, we still hold them. But while they're in mid-air, the mother's going like, please don't, But as dads, we enjoy doing that, throwing them up in the air and getting that.
Yeah.
For both boys and girls, that takes away the fear in them, especially the fear of heights. Abubaba.
Yeah.
And then comes the mother. The mother is responsible for the care and the nurturing. When a child has fallen, the mother will run to the child, grab the child, hold them. Sorry, my baby, wipe them out. Yeah, and play the comforting role. Tina Baba, okay, no, come, get up. You'll be fine. Okay, fine, go back. But umama would hold the child and nurture them and want to just protect them. But the dad, as a dad, we calculate, if a child can get on this table, already I assess the risk around. If they fall, will they really get hurt? And I just stay close.
In an event.
But just let them explore. If this cup is as it is, it's got this hot coffee, I'll be careful not for them not to be burnt. But if they're curious and they're persistent in touching what's inside, I'll observe. Let them. And then what have they learned?
Is that the father?
Yes.
Will learn.
But the mother wants to protect.
So that we have got different instincts.
We've got different styles and instincts.
Okay.
So that then helps the child to be raised perfectly. And there's a difference between raising a child perfectly and raising perfect children.
And what's the difference? Interesting.
When you want to raise perfect children, you are trying to shape them into, let's say, the societal norms and standards, but you don't want them to make mistakes. You don't want them to do anything. You want them to be this obedient child, this best child. They're straight. I wouldn't this thing with a child is naughty. While on that, remember there were news that broke that there was a bus which was carrying children. And when the children got off the bus, they were all quiet and they were walking in single file. They were going to the bathroom and then they were going back. And somebody said, there's something wrong with that. Children can never be silent coming out of a bus, especially when they're going on a trip.
It's excitement.
It's excitement. And you have to say, yay,
Yeah.
So that's what children do. So when you start having a child that behaves perfectly, it's a warning sign. They're not being allowed to be children. So you're trying to raise a perfect child, and that does not exist. You'll always be frustrating the child. And then there's raising a child perfectly, which means you allow them to have exposure to the mother and to the father. And you allow the father to parent them as well as allowing the mother to parent them, that brings in those skills. But then at the same time, you teach them to incorporate the two and not say, I prefer daddy or I prefer mommy. They must incorporate both styles and learn that there's an advantage.
You are saying, when about Kunene, that we bring in different skills, we bring in different talents, we're bringing, all to bear as we raise them. Because when you started, you said something for me that it's the best interest of the child. That becomes the operative word. It's not up to us, or it's not us as a central people. Are we done with? Do you think it's the camps and are there other activities?
So firstly, it's the camps where it's the isolation of the dad and the child together amongst other dads. And then we focus on 4 pillars: emotional, psychological, spiritual, and financial pillars. And that's where we help and empower the dad. So what we're saying is that to the dad, you actually don't need to be perfect to be in the picture. Because as men, when I feel inadequate, I'll extract myself out of the situation. Right? So right now, we're saying, no matter how inadequate you feel, still go in. If you feel that you cannot provide financially, you are still able to provide emotionally, intellectually, and otherwise to your children. The fact that you are there, sometimes all children just need that. Be there.
Just your presence.
Just be there.
Just your cuddling, your touching.
Yes. And that affirmation when a dad puts a hand on your shoulder and say, well done, my child. Children look forward to that affirmation. So as a dad, we're saying, no matter how inadequate you feel, you still need to
how
be present.
Others may perceive.
You
that, hey, out here is fun.
Yes.
Out here you love Hana Zaga. Hana, so you are saying that, look, we want to change the narrative.
Yes.
This is what dad's in the picture, that look, there are things that you can bring to bear in the relationship.
We're telling the dad, be there as much as you can, be there. Because there are other things. Don't worry about what everybody else is saying. At the end of the day, it matters the most to your children, whether you were there or not.
And our society, would you agree, that puts a great emphasis on what I always, for many, many years, have come to coin as ATM fathers.
Yes.
That if Mbuyiselo, usbu, husband, you spoke about it. These are the emotional, the focus is never there, because then the society assumes that the best is that way. Be there.
Yeah. And mawukhiphe imali, you can go and galavant and do whatever, it's fine.
Even though I was fridge, Kanti kids don't need only fridge. While that may be important, may be crucial to their overall development, but there are also other things that they need.
I can tell you stories of children who seemingly, I'm going to use the word seemingly, have everything except for their parents, except for the love of their parents.
Everything.
They have it, the money, the gadgets, they've got the home, they're taken to school in the most luxurious cars, they go to the most expensive school, but the parents are not there. And all they need is the love of a parent, for the mother or father to just sit with them. And just even 5 minutes. How was your school? What did you do? What did you enjoy? What didn't work out? How are you feeling? Just touching base.
And you don't need money for those.
No. So there are many children in that space who are not getting it. They've got all the material things, but the love of a parent, they don't have.
Which brings me to, what is a parental alienation?
Parental alienation is when one of the parents is blocked from having contact and care with the child. And now what often happens is the one alienating will be the one who makes the loudest noise about the one alienated. So here's an example.
Okay.
What would happen is if I am the one blocked from having contact with my children, the one making the blockage will then go and say, yeah, this one, he only sends money, he's useless, he doesn't care, he doesn't do that. He's a deadbeat father. Yes.
We've got this and this here.
Exactly. So that's the first narrative. And then culture as well comes into play, where then it's said, okay, you got this girl or this lady pregnant out of wedlock. So ngoba awukhiphanga inhlawulo. Then
it's a damage. Damage is one.
Yeah, well, that's another word I want to address. But inhlawulo.
Yeah.
Because inhlawulo in essence is basically saying you impregnated a child who's still under the care of their father or parents without their permission. And that was disrespectful.
Okay.
Right? And you've brought shame to the family.
Yes.
So now, hlawula, you're being fined in a way.
Hlawula.
So inhlawulo. Right. So now, kuthiwa ngoba ukhiphanga inhlawulo ngeke uzumbone lo mntwana. Even though you have every intention of being present. So whenever you make efforts to come in and see the child, noma ngabe udlule to the cheapest clothing store, wathenga even maybe a top, ne? Uthi yazi ngirezile. I just got money, ukuthola itop. I couldn't afford the whole set.
But you know.
And then they see you petty plastic A1. But when at that time ugqoke under inembobo icathulo bozithungisa ku my brother laphana ngokotini just nje ukuthi zihlangane. But you thought ukuthi unomntwana. So you then want to take just this one thing and take it to, and then you're blocked.
Awuhlawula.
Right. So that's why culture comes in. And then you move away from culture. You find, okay, we were in a relationship, we were together, and then we break up. When we break up, the breakup is messy. You are bitter, you are angry for whatever reason, and then you he won't have access.
Uzongibona. Akangazi. Ukuthi mina ngibhengwa mina ngiyintsha.
Exactly. So then we block. Right? And then there's another one, a breakup that happens cordially.
Where you both agree, look, this thing I span. I say it in Twitter.
We've got children or we've got a child. Sharp. Go your way, I'll go my way. And you can see the child whenever you want to. We get into an agreement. And then, lo and behold, when as ubaba, you move on. You meet somebody else.
You get into another relationship.
Yeah.
Ubaba manje.
And then the puppet dance.
Oh, because ushiya lengani and then say manje akashiyanga umntwana.
How dare does he move on when I have not? How dare does he find happiness
somewhere
else when I am not happy?
So ngizombonisa.
Yeah.
Uzongazi kahle.
So he's not going to see the child.
That's now you are alienating.
Yes. Now he's not going to see.
Now
so what they then do, they'll cut off the communication with my cell phone. They'll change the school
without you knowing.
Yeah, without even your consent. At worst, they can even go to a different country where they know the agreements between the South African government and that country do not allow for any arrangements.
Okay.
Oguti, the one government can interfere. And they're usually advised by lawyers who get involved in the separation. So then they can do that. And then when as Baba, you're frustrated. Gogunye, what they would do is they would create false charges or false accusations and say, no, Mbuyiselo is raping the child, is abusive, he's doing all of these things.
Or the present partner Mbuyiselo, uya kathandi and
Akathanda umntwana, uyama-abuser, yes.
I'm not even sure ukuthi bayenze ezinye into in his presence.
Exactly.
All of them, they are lies.
Worse, even when it's a girl child. Because was it, my daughter, when she goes to visit her father, she comes back somehow. She has lost her confidence and say all sorts of things.
That's behavior.
But unfortunately, there's never the burden of proof placed upon the one who's accusing. And then the system goes and frustrates the dad.
Say more about it. The system goes on to frustrate the dad.
Yeah, to frustrate the dad.
Say more.
So what then happens is the mother will go to SAPS and say, the protection order against Ubaba because he's abusive. They don't ask any questions.
Could explain how abusive?
Where's the evidence? Have you reported before?
The burden of ayikho. As soon as I come kanjati, this is a bad man. This is his abusive. Her word is taken as gospel.
As the gospel truth. So then they issue that, blocking him.
Protection order, man.
Yeah, protection order, blocking him. They open a case, which there's no evidence, there's no any investigation. And now he has to keep on defending all of that through courts. Now what happens, more figure a children's court and in front of the magistrate, thankfully these days things are changing, but the narrative is still that when as a father you come either in the maintenance court or the children's court, you're first presumed as the guilty one. Okay. In one case, which was very interesting, a dad had brought the mother to the maintenance court for maintenance.
That's the dad now.
Yeah, the dad. But when they stood in front of the magistrate, before the magistrate had heard the case, he turned to the mother and said, how much do you want for maintenance?
Without even, so there's this presumptuousness, what is the guilty one will know. And that's interesting, yeah? Say more.
So,
maintenance.
Exactly. Yes. So then that's another way that the fathers get frustrated. Now, to Emma courts, they don't give you time over the weekend. Okay, you'll come and present your case on a weekend. So you have to present it during the week. Present yourself to court during the week. What that means, you have to negotiate with your boss, who, if you're unfortunate, is difficult. And then you have to say all sorts of things, produce evidence, have your work even threatened, just so that you can appear in court. To argue a case that doesn't even exist.
There are these false charges.
Yes. And that's what we've seen. And then they're going to come and say, no, Daddy has anger issues. Now, they don't even test that. They want you to go into anger management programs without checking with you. They can say, Uguti, no, Daddy is doing drugs and doing all sorts of malicious things.
It's bad model to my idea. Where I want to learn about in front of her.
Exactly. Without any evidence. So the father now has to bend over backwards, trying to fight that, trying to prove his innocence.
So all of these are this part of alienation.
Yes. And then they tell you, while you're still on the system.
Okay.
So that was the courts, that was the SAPS. And then you go to a social worker. The social worker has a bias against the father. Again.
The social worker.
The social worker. So you see it in how they do the interviews, how they document the cases. And then you realize, okay, I'm basically fighting a system. So you have the social
things are stacked against me as a father.
Exactly. Recently, we had a case where this couple were living together. The woman decided she's going to take the child out of a good school into a different province, into a school which was not as good as this one, and then get into a relationship, all hide any of that. Now, if the dad wants to have access, he has to go through the jurisdiction of the family advocate in that province, not his. So this was Gauteng and Limpopo. So he has to be engaging with the Limpopo office of the family advocate. And can you imagine now, he's not working, he's hustling, he uthole imali lapho nalapho, and now he has to take this money and then go that side. Ngale, people are not really passionate about doing their work. They're really just, we're going to do the bare minimum.
Push the paper.
He had to even get the attention of the Minister of Department of Justice to intervene. And when the minister intervened and said, come on, help this person, then they had an attitude, oh, now the instruction is coming from top down. See?
So,
yeah.
Connections.
Exactly. So then they frustrated him. So you see, even the legal system now is involved. So eventually decided, okay, fine. We thought, you know what, Daddy, let's go to legal aid. It wasn't any better. He was frustrated. He was judged. He was presumed guilty just because babona a smaller income coming. They were not interested in anything else. They said, no, we can't help you.
You don't qualify
without even looking at the merits of the case. And then you find cases where there's a court order against the mother to stop alienating the father, grant him access. She would then frustrate still the dad of that process. And what I've often seen is that eventually, after years of fighting, and that's what we tell dads when they enter into this process, that look, it's not going to be an easy journey. It's not going to be a now solution. It's going to be years before this thing is resolved. So have the resilience to go the long way. Eventually, when the father wins the case, and I can't remember a dad saying, no, she must go to prison. He always says, when now he has the right and he's been given the opportunity to put her in prison for violating court orders, he often says, I can't explain to my child that I took their mother to prison. So it's fine. I've got access now. I can have contact with my child. That's all I was fighting for. And that's the difference I've seen in the dads who eventually win the cases. So that's where the system frustrates the fathers.
And this is, are people aware? I, as a woman, am I aware that this is a conscious, deliberate, alienation, or I do it as a matter of course? Or do I see that? What do I want to ask you? Do I see then because he has moved on? You spoke about it, a relationship venture, and then how dare does he? Is it something that I plan, or it comes? What do you think?
It's different factors that are involved. One of them being that the person is not emotionally intelligent to realize what they are doing when they are doing it. They may be doing it out of impulse the first time, and then they realize that, okay, I've got him running to me. And because she's got him running to her,
I caught him wearing
funakon.
Yeah.
And then she keeps pressing on that. She keeps pressing. The more he comes begging, the more he's there trying to gain access and contact, the more she press on. But there's a bigger thing that no one realizes. This child, as I said earlier, has their identity in both parents. And when you're blocking access to the other parent, you're denying them of the opportunity of knowing who they are as a child. So you are eventually hurting your own child. And there was one dad some years ago. He called on radio and said, I hate my child.
The dad?
Yeah,
I hate my child.
Hate my child. I don't want to see them. I'll pay money, but I don't want to see them. Because the mother's interference, especially using the system, especially subs, caused such great pain and embarrassment into his new family that he was arrested in front of his children and wife.
Humiliated.
Not because he had done wrong, just because she made up charges.
This trumped up charges.
Yeah. And then when she couldn't prove and he fought it, it was just like, okay, bye-bye, you can go home. So there was that anger and bitterness. So now imagine the father doesn't want to see his own child. And now here's another thing that we forget. When a child is born, they get 13 chromosomes.
30.
From the, is it 13 or
Well,
around the number? But they get half of the chromosomes from the mother, half from the father. And they both come and they form this person. The DNA of both parents is in this child. Now, there are traumas, there are successes and blessings that come from either family. And when we see a child battling certain things in their life, we can trace it to either the mother or the father's side. And that's why children must always know the stories of their parents and where they come from, as well as their great-grandparents and so on, because you carry their experiences, their DNA, and everything into you, unaware. And eventually those things, they manifest. So if you don't know where those things come from, they're dealing with a spirit of depression, with a spirit of suicide. And when as the alienating parent, you don't know the story of the other parent. 2 generations prior, there was a parent or someone in the family who struggled with these things. And now your child is manifesting all of these things. You're not going to be able to solve them. That's why some people end up running to go to Asa, running to Inyanga, running from here to there. Because exactly, because they're trying to solve something that could have easily been solved by letting the parent know.
So you're saying that it's in fact when you alienate the other from the children, you are not looking at in fact the damage that you're doing to the child.
Yes.
And you're saying it manifests in different ways.
Yeah.
To the children.
To the children.
You're saying that
children display anger. So it's pain that a child cannot really articulate as pain, and then they translate it to anger. And then you're wondering, why is this child rebellious, angry, disrespectful? And unfortunately, other children, they turn against the very parent, and they're demanding and they want attention and all sorts of stuff. All because there's a pain very early on that they did not get to deal with because they were alienated from the other parent. And then now that translated into anger.
And you're saying, you would search, but you search at wrong places.
Yes.
When in fact, this is what you are responsible for.
Yes.
But the element of you don't want to own, you can't own and say, but you know what? I think I was wrong, to have alienated, because then you had this was your battle and you were using. You remember that?
It was not even your battle.
It
was not even your battle. The fact that, and this is one thing that we need to accept, that your ex can be happy without you. Let them.
Your ex can be happy
without you. Let them.
And you need to acknowledge that, you see, it's in fact not about me. It's about, if I do all of this, the alienation I'm doing, that, look, I may not even get him back.
It never does.
It never does.
It never does get the other back. If they do come back, it becomes a very toxic environment where even the children themselves, they can see, it's not working. And they wait for the parent who's unhappy to one day leave. And then they say, we've been waiting for you to make that move.
The kids would say this. In fact, you are better off, both of you.
Yeah. Sometimes children often come out and say, but why are you still in this relationship? Why are you still in this relationship?
And more often than not, would say, when in fact we're doing more damage. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
So, and we're not conscious about it.
No.
Or are we? Or it's just this selfishness on our part?
I think we took this thing from so long ago that we must stay because of the children. But children see, and children know when parents are not together. You can walk into the same bedroom and lock the door, and then one sleeps on the bed, one sleeps on the floor, and then go to your children don't see.
In the morning, you think that they
And then
think
you
that
come
this
and
is
you
normal.
pretend.
Yeah.
But children always see, and they always know. They may not say it, and when they do get to say it, they'll ask you, but why are you staying? Because there's no marriage here. There's no relationship here. And you say, no, I've been staying because of you. No. We need you to be happy.
Yeah, you're hurting them more.
Yes. And what we don't realize is the sadness and the toxicity that exists in our relationships. Even when children are born and they cannot inherit it via our blood and that connection, psychologically, they still can get it through being around us. Because we only think that it only just goes through in our bloodstream. But just by them being in that environment, they inherit that toxicity and resentment, by the way. They can resent marriages. They can resent relationships. Why? Because they've seen it. It didn't work for their parents. Why should it work for them? So you've actually destroyed them.
Yeah, that template is a negative one,
Yes.
if you like.
So then it doesn't help to stay or go back to a partner that you'd left just for the children. It doesn't help anyone.
You spoke earlier on about, the kids would have depression, some would have anger, but share with us more. What would I be aware if I was a child? Now I'm an adult. Would I be aware that it's some of my behaviors are directly linked to that alienation? Or put it this way: are they what happens? Or are there signs? Or would I know as an adult? Or adults, are they aware of what had happened to them yesterday after so many years when they are now themselves are adults? They're grown up.
Yes. So one of the ways is beware of the conversations, of the opinions that you hold about the parent who was not there. Firstly, you will always have one side of the story. I was told that my dad was a drunkard, that he was abusive, that he was a drug addict.
Irresponsible.
He was irresponsible.
Sexual predator.
Yeah, but you've never heard the story from the horse's mouth.
From him.
It's unfortunate. It becomes even more unfortunate when the dad even passes on without you getting the full story. So the narrative you have about the other parent, where did you get it from? Did you get it from them? Did you experience it, or were you told? And that's how you would know. The second one is, how do you relate? So in this context, we're talking about dads. So how do you relate to men in authority? Do you have respect for authority? Do you have a healthy relationship with males or men? For girls, look at how you are always getting into relationships. What are you seeking? If you're always seeking validation from a man,
affirmation from a man, if the standard upon which you measure a good relationship is when an elderly man takes care of you, looking for the father figure.
There we go. So that's another practical example. If as a boy, as a male, you have resentment towards older men and authority as well, it's because there's the father who was absent, who didn't model positive fatherhood. And that's where it comes from. When also the inverse, some children grow up and they get to see that the mother is alienating the father. And what they then do is have resentment towards the mother.
And then how does it manifest itself?
So it manifests in disrespect towards the mother or women.
They're rebellious.
Yeah. It manifests in even violence against women. Saying things like, you cannot trust women. Women are cruel, and they form all these stereotypes around women. It's because of what they've seen happen to the father when they were young. And now it's something you cannot change, especially when the father is no longer there. That pain is always
So they may
there.
grow in themselves not having stable relationships.
Exactly.
Themselves. Because
and they're abusive in relationships.
They become abusive in relationships.
Yes.
Is it because of what they've seen their father being treated, and
Yes.
there's no way in stopping it or standing up for him because they are dependent on this couple or this mother? So you're saying that it has those effects.
Yes.
You'd see what the dysfunctionality or personal problems that they may have.
Exactly. Another one then on top of that is drug abuse. Now, the thing about drug abuse is, or about drugs, and you would know this when you take pain medication, is that it numbs the pain and you're able to bear the experience. So with drugs, it gives you that high. It takes you into a different phase and you feel like you're in cloud nine. You forget everything, especially with alcohol as well. You tend to forget. And then when you're sober, it comes back. What do? You go back to what gave you the escape. So it's a form of escapism. So you're always coming back to all of those things because there was the pain of an absent father that you did not know how to deal with. And drugs became the gateway.
Like you say, you escape. It gives you an escape. It takes you to another, an unreal world then.
Exactly. And then another one is that you get to associate with a crowd that gives you pseudo-love.
Say more, so interesting, pseudo-love.
So it's that love where you see gangsters, where they say, we welcome you, you're one of ours. They give you a sense of belonging. The alpha male who's there, they bring you closer and they shower you with all these gifts as if they really love you. But it's a shadow of a love that you did not have from your father. So it's pseudo-love. It's not really that true love. If you've experienced the love of a father, you know when it's not. When you get into a relationship as a girl child and somebody treats you otherwise, you can immediately say, that's not how my father treats me. That's not how my father treated me. I deserve better. And you're able to call somebody out. When you're a man, you constantly seeking out fatherly affirmation because you did not have that.
And you may seek it in wrong places. You spoke about, gangsters. You'd go to those places,
yes.
But also where you feel that, look, I am being affirmed.
Yes.
That I'm being made that, look, for the first time I'm a human being.
Yes.
My humanity is acknowledged.
Pseudo-affirmation.
Pseudo-affirmation. I'm being embraced.
Yes.
That's what you say.
Definitely.
All of this, yeah. And we are never conscious that ultimately this is how, as I alienate him, this is how what's going to happen. Would you say that in South Africa, or would it be fair to say that, in fact, the majority of people who alienate others from others are women?
Yes. Globally.
There are statistics that prove that it is women who, when they want to get back at him,
yes,
for one or another reason.
Or another.
And this is something that a lot of us don't want to go to. These are these holy grounds, yes, that we would not go to, because then would I be right to say that we would always be conscious that don't touch man, women, there's some sense of purity, or that they never make mistake.
I'm going to say this, and maybe it's going to be controversial.
Remember what we're doing here. We know alcoholic house. They're unconventional. So feel free.
The government is not interested in resolving parental alienation. It's not. They're interested in pushing the narrative of toxic femininity or feminism. They're interested in pushing gender-based violence, protecting women and children, rightfully so, but ignoring the males.
So men are hard done.
Yes.
So you're saying, would you say that is this a deliberate thing that the government does, or is it a global thing that you protect women? This is it's global, or is global. Would you say that is it as a result of the policies? Is that the policies that we're dealing with that would not give voice to men and the men's pain, men's anger, frustration, especially when they deal with alienation?
Let me put it to you this way, rather. You have a phone. Right?
A what?
A phone.
A phone, yeah, I do. Yeah.
Now, if you were to have that phone for 10 years, almost every month or every period, there would be a software update that's pushed by the manufacturer onto that device. It enhances security, it enhances performance, and it helps your phone cope with the latest technologies that are deployed. Now, ever since the advent of women empowerment, women's software has constantly been updated. And yet the man's software, or the boy child or the male, is left there in that patriarchal tendency, in that tendency where men think a woman is supposed to be under me, a woman is supposed to serve me, and all of that narrative. Nobody has bothered to update this software. And yet we are expected to have these two people come together into a relationship and form a family. It's not going to happen. It's not going to be a healthy family because this woman operates on a software that's at this level, whereas the male operates at this level. So there's no understanding. Yeah.
That's when you see that a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, because, here's the empowerment you spoke about. Here's that, all of the things, like you said, they hit or they contribute towards Abu GBV, the anti-women, this. Ultimately, it's because I like what you're saying, the software, men's software had not been improved.
No.
Had not been enhanced.
And another one, our South African government has, what do they call this thing? Department of Women and Children. It focuses on women and children. Every year, towards the end of the year, there's 16 days of activism.
25th of November to the 10th of December.
Who is it focusing on? Women and children. Who's focusing on the boy child? Is there a department of boys and men? No. Are there programs that are geared intentionally and specifically to empower men? Remember, what we are saying here is, as you continue empowering the woman, empower the men to understand that things are changing, that you need to look into yourself and find different parts of you that can work together with this person who is now becoming empowered. How do you get into a relationship with a woman who's getting all these opportunities and you are not, and yet you still have to be a partner to her? And by being a partner to her, what does that mean? What does that look like? There's a thing we cannot change in men, the intrinsic nature to want to provide. Despite all of that, do you know that even though she earns 1 million and you earn 100 rand, if you take out 10 rand and just say, my love, it means a lot. Because to her, you still want to take care of her.
The picture is, would you say, Blake, in our country, on how men continuously, systematically are alienated. What do we do? Is there a solution? What do we do? Because look, other men would say, you know what? Giving I span, I'm giving up. Okay, she wants to raise them on by okay.
Yeah.
Yes. What do we do? Is there hope? Is there light at the end of the tunnel? Or Baba Kunene, siyayeka sithi ya. Look, this is they did not. I gravitate towards the term you used. They did not upgrade.
Yeah.
So siyayeka, or what do you say that? Do we throw our hands in despair? Said, hey, didn't I spare?
Realistically, if we throw our hands and we give up, we've given up on our future. We've given up on our children, and we might as well just take a gas and just kill everyone if we give up. So we can't give up. And that's why organizations as Dads in the Picture, we constantly say, as men, we need to change the narrative of how we are perceived by investing in ourselves, in our development, that focus on your growth. Because when you are a better person, you can be a better father. Interrogate how society has always perceived you and see where you can play a role. Because when you start changing yourself, remember the man in the mirror principle. So if you want to change
the world. That's Michael Jackson, yes. Song. Amazing song, Man in the Mirror.
Yes.
Beautiful song.
So start by changing the man in the mirror so that he can become a better dad. And then for women is to learn and realize that children need both parents. If a parent is toxic and they're abusive, make sure that when your child gets to see them or they have contact with them, it's with a neutral person who's going to supervise the visit and eventually allow the child to get to their own conclusion where they say, I don't need to be with him. All right? So it has to be a child's decision so that when they are older, they can say, I decided. And then they are at a point where they need to understand his circumstances. What caused him to be like that? Because everybody has a story. The hardened criminal in prison has his story of how he got there. It didn't start because of desperation. It didn't start because of greed. It started long before then. But if you can know his story without judging him, and then go to organizations like Dads in the Picture. There are many others out there that are really focused on empowering the community.
What's your website?
www.dadsinthepicture.co.za.
Say it again. It's very important.
www.dadsinthepicture.co.za.
So there is light at the end of time. There's hope. If all of us as South Africans are alive to the idea that men cannot continue to face alienation without any of us raising their voices. And when we raise our voices, we're doing it for the better of this country. In fact, we are investing in the future of this country. We are, in fact, doing a lot to create a society that is normal. We can no longer continue to normalize alienation of fathers. We can no longer think that it's okay just to go on bashing, demonizing, condemning fathers, when in fact we condone alienation. So, you are a father out there, know that there's something that you can do about it. But as a woman, as a mother, if you want to fight your own battles, let's not use our children. Let's not misuse, abuse, ill-treat them by alienating the other. Children, as Baba Kunene said, they need both of us. It doesn't matter that you could be earning these millions, but he needs or she needs a father's love, father's affirmation. Thank you, Ndate, for being with us. And I've learned so much. I hope that we will continue to talk. We'll continue to talk about this unconventional, this sad reality in our country that a lot of us don't even contemplate talking about because we want to be politically correct. I think it's about time that organizations such as Dads in the Picture, we hear their voice and we bring dads into the picture, both figuratively and literally. But thank you for joining us.
This is Tea with Botha.